Hello, everybody, and welcome into Perspectives. I'm so glad you're here today because our first guest is going to hit a home run. I promise you. He comes to us by way of Meals on Wheels. Now he's the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma. Calvin Moore, it's good to see you again.
It's great to see you as well, my friend.
So happy you could make it. You guys have done a yeoman's job over there, but you've laid out things that, I mean, it sounds impossible what's coming. I don't think the folks generally understand how much of a problem you're facing. Now, you've gone through an expansion or you're going through one.
Yes.
But it's to accommodate what's coming. So let's start it there. Let's just say the expansion's finished. What's coming?
Well, let me just, and thank you so much for having me on the show again today. It's always great to see you. I'm always excited to talk about the work at the food bank because it's monumental and it's so important to so many people who live here in Eastern Oklahoma. As you know, there are primarily two Feeding America associated food banks in Oklahoma, Regional Food Bank in Oklahoma City, and then the Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma, which manages 24 counties on the eastern side, north all the way south in
Border to border.
In the state. Yes, absolutely. About 2 years ago, we embarked upon a massive expansion program for our physical plant, our current facility there at 1304 North Kenosha. And we are basically doubling the size of the organization. We've gone from about 78,000 square feet to about 156,000 square feet. It boasts kind of a new administrative area. A lot of that investment has gone into additional dry dock storage, so we have an entirely new massive expansion on the warehouse side, and we built one of the largest commercial freezers of any not-for-profit in the region because we have to expand cold storage, dry dock storage, and we on the opposite side of yes.
Well, let me
Sure.
jump in just for a minute so the folks at home understand this. When we're talking about dry storage,
Yes.
we're talking about stacks of potatoes, stacks of onions, and so forth, plus
Yes.
boxed food. And when you're talking about cold storage, you're talking about things that have to be kept cool, refrigerated until they're delivered.
Yes, and so our storage capacity is broken up into three main components. It's cooler capacity, where all of our fruits and vegetables and all of those perishables go, short-term perishables are stored. Then you have dry dock storage, which stores all of your canned goods, your rice, your beans, your manufactured foods, water, all of those things that are just so important. And then your freezer space actually stores mainly frozen proteins and other foods that need to be frozen.
Because we're talking about 525,000 meals a week.
Well, we're still working on the numbers, so I can tell you that last year we distributed about 30 million pounds of food. The goal is to go from about 25 million meals per year to double that to about 50 million meals per year. And so 60 million pounds of food roughly translates into about 50 million meals per year. And that's essentially doubling what we did last year and about half of what we did during during the COVID years, which in my mind is 2020, 2021, and portions of 2022. So our big, hairy, audacious goal is to really take that new facility and use it to increase what we call the throughput velocity. In other words, if we can store 20 million pounds of food in that facility and turn that inventory over 3 times, that essentially is a key metric for our success. That means that we're getting the requisite amount of food out into the community that we believe that the community needs and is demanding of us.
And while at the same time, you're challenged with the numbers that you just quoted.
Yes.
You also have to keep in mind the faces of the needy, particularly the children.
Yes.
The children are the ones that are getting hit the hardest.
Yes, the most vulnerable populations in Oklahoma and really any state are the elderly who live alone. And that's why I have such an affinity and love for the work that organizations like Meals on Wheels does. And the children, the individuals who are in school or too young to necessarily take care of themselves. And so that's why we are really big advocates for all programs that support these two populations in particular. But it's worth noting that these populations are always connected to working families. And it's working families who are really, really struggling to make ends meet. If you think about the pressures that are placed on those wage earners, just in terms of inflation, particularly the cost of food. The cost of food is gone through the roof. I was at a grocery store with my wife one day, and I don't normally go, and I got the bill, and I said, "Hey, is this the right bill? Is this ours? Is this what we're paying for food?" And she jokingly said, "Yes, you should come out more so you can be aware of what's going on out here. But the prices are really high." But regular families are facing those kinds of pressures, and we need to do everything we can at the food bank, throughout the not-for-profit sector, and in the public sector to help families.
I've grown weary of shows on commercial television that say, that feature recipes for this and recipes for that. They don't go into the cost factor because the average family can't afford it. They cannot afford it. And so many of the young ones that are food challenged are able to get 2 meals a day through the public schools.
Yes.
When the school lets out at the end of the year,
Yes.
there comes summer. You have a thing in mind there to help with that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. We have various programs that we run not only through the school year, but even after the school year is up, to make sure that we can fill some of that nutritional gap. There's a big issue in Oklahoma with children being overfed and undernourished. And so we are on a big campaign to help individuals, families, and kids know how to take advantage of fruits and vegetables. Right now, Oklahoma ranks about 43rd in the nation for consumption of fruits and vegetables. Our staff tells us that number is going a little bit higher. So what the food bank does is operate pantries in most of the high schools in our 24 county area. And that's for kids who come in at the end of the school day or sometime during the school hours to say, "I want to shop for my family or shop for myself," and they can come in, get canned goods, sometimes produce, whatever we have in there, and they can put that in their backpack and take it home.
Calvin, let me jump in real quick here because we're fast running out of time. How much help are you guys getting from the political side of the fence?
Well, I think for the most part, our delegation, our congressional delegation, has been very, very helpful.
Now, are you talking about Washington?
I'm talking about Washington, and I'm talking about about stateside as well. Congressman Frank Lucas has been amazing. Congressman Hearn has held out an open ear for us to talk about issues like the Farm Bill and SNAP and all of those programs that help our families. And then locally, Senator Kevin Matthews, Representative Boatman, they've all been phenomenal champions for food security in the state of Oklahoma, and have done an enormous amount of work to help us to make sure that we can continue to make our mission strong and that kids are looked after.
And still, the children are hungry.
Still, the children are hungry. The 2nd Congressional District in Oklahoma is one of the most food insecure districts in the entire United States. And I'm not just picking on the 2nd Congressional District, but it's a problem that exists in all districts. But when you land in the top 1, 2, or 3 consistently year over year for food insecurity for young children, it's something that we all need to be paying attention to, and we all need to be pushing resources towards, because this is a problem that's solvable. And that's one of the things that I want to emphasize. If we come together, public and private interest, we can solve the problem of hunger in Oklahoma.
I know
it's
you've
a political will issue.
You've already done this, but you've gone out and partnered with the tribal factors that are in that region, aren't you?
Yes, and so of course there are about 39 tribes in Oklahoma, and we are intent on number one, making sure that we lend resources, we lend our expertise, and the tribes are already doing a phenomenal job as it relates to food sovereignty, and I've been learning a lot about their heroic efforts, and they've taught me. Many of the tribes have taught me that food sovereignty equals national sovereignty, that you're not a nation, that you're not a sovereign nation unless you control and maintain your own food stores, supplies, and so forth. And so we just want to come along and partner with our tribal partners, and they have welcomed us with open arms. We run programs for veterans in a lot of the tribal nations, and those have been really, really successful. Now we're turning our attention to making sure that we can continue the work that we do in education and providing some of the other staples that are required for the nations to be healthy.
Calvin, we're out of time. Thank you for coming
Such a short conversation, more to talk about.
Went by in a hurry. Would you come back?
Absolutely, anytime.
I'd like to come out with a camera sometime because I want folks to get a clear handle on what you're doing out there, that they can be in that line tomorrow.
Yes, but
We
for the
all
grace
could,
of
I
God.
could, you could.
But for the grace of God, yes.
And it falls on us to do what we can to help our brothers and sisters and the children.
One community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a short break and we'll come back with Grace Ballard with Foundations Behavioral Health.